The video version, so we're live now on video, and then I'm going to move over quickly off screen to my GarageBand and put it back to start. Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of the Liberated Millionaire Podcast. I'm so pumped to have you here, and today we're talking all about what business professionals do differently than everyday people and how it can help you feel better about yourself, feel better in your life, and have less anxiety. The thing that business professionals, the real entrepreneurs, the people who are successful do differently than everybody else is that they invest, and they just invest in compounding, but they do it in themselves, okay? So in terms of personal finances, there's sort of three levels of personal finance, right? There's the person who doesn't ever invest anything, and so they just have what they have and spend it. And then there's the person who I was taught to be when I was growing up, which is the person who invests in stock markets and index funds, right? And if you're pretty smart now, you are probably educated enough to know that, gaming the stock market and stuff, while there are people who can do that successfully, as an everyday person, your best bet is just to invest in index funds with a company like Vanguard, or just some other huge financial company, and you just put your money in the stock market and you get your average return on the market, right? But people like that never become business professionals, right? You have to do more than that if you want to really have an extraordinary life. And so what business professionals do with their money, but also with their time and energy that I'm going to talk to you about, is business professionals are always reinvesting every single thing they have and more in their own business, their own person, themselves, right? So if you know how Warren Buffett got started in business, he bought pinball machines, and pinball machines, you put the coins in, and so you have to pay, and so he would own a pinball machine, and then people would pay to play his pinball machine, and then he took the money from that and he reinvested it in more and more and more pinball machines until now he's Warren Buffett, whatever. A couple good examples who I have on my bookshelf. So if you're on the podcast, hold on while I pull these off my bookshelf. One of them that I will tell you about is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. This is the founder of Nike. And if you read this book, I highly recommend it, first of all, because it is hilarious. Shoe Dog. It's so funny, it's witty. This guy could have been a professional novelist. I mean, the guy's a genius, and it's just so well written. And he wrote it. I don't think he had a ghostwriter. I think he just sat down and wrote this thing, right? It's so incredibly good. And what you'll learn about Phil is that he taught us in business what you could learn about your personal life, which is a couple things that both seem counterintuitive, but that he did. First of all, he did not quit his day job too early in the game. All right? This is really interesting. It's reinvesting in yourself does not mean quitting everything else. It's totally your choice, whether you quit your day job or keep it. For me, when I decided I didn't like my job was in 2016. When I actually quit my job was like 3 years and 4 months later in October of 2019. So I spent 3 more years working on myself without quitting my day job so that I could get my finances in order and then be here recording and have my studio equipment and everything for you. And so Phil Knight, right, continue to work, continue to grind, and other people quit their jobs. It doesn't really matter. But that's point number one, is business professionals know that it's not some miracle like fix, right? It's not just like you have to quit everything. It's not just you have to throw everything away. But the real thing that's important, and that Phil's story and the Nike story, which is just phenomenal, teaches us, is that you've got to reinvest every single drop of everything you have into yourself for the first 5 or 10 years of your self-improvement journey, and really for your whole life. And it's just that once you get past 5 or 10 years, then you really just see such high compounding rates of income that you can basically do whatever you want. And so I am an example of this, not in terms of money yet, because I'm still working on the money end, right? I don't earn as much in my 2 businesses as I did when I was working as a software developer yet. So not on the money end, but on the personal growth end, I can tell you that these principles of leaders in business, reinvesting everything they have, is exactly what I do in terms of personal growth. If you had seen me off camera about 30 minutes ago, you would have seen me walking my dog and my palm on my face and feeling like my stomach was just going to heave and like I was going to throw up, and just felt so sick and tired and gross, and just not for any bad reason, but because I've been reinvesting every piece of energy I have into myself. Meaning, if I have a little chunk of energy, I'm not just going to sit there and lollygag around. I'm going to be podcasting, or I'm going to be working out, right, to get my muscles stronger so that I can, get big and et cetera, et cetera. I'm like putting so much into my physical body. But what you'll realize is that every single successful business person in any type of endeavor has invested years and years and years of stacking their expertise and training themselves and stacking their money over and over again so that they can then explode with growth. Okay? So for Phil Knight, I think it's fascinating that he grew up just before the era of venture capitalism, he says. So when he's founding Nike, I think it was in the 60s. And so he's doing this in the 60s, and there's no real venture capitalist to back him. So, he's just got a shoestring budget. Funny, because Nike was started with shoes only. And he kept reinvesting, and every single time his company would sell shoes, and he would have like 10 employees all selling shoes. And they would make, $400,000 in a year. They would take that $400,000, which was a ton, right? A ton of money in 1960 whatever, and they would reinvest it all into another shipment of shoes. And then they would sell all those shoes, and it would double the size, and then they'd have $800,000 in their bank account. And then guess what? They would spend all $800,000 reinvesting in new things, and they'd be back down to zero in their bank account. Guys, there were times, the story is really fascinating. There were times when Nike was doing over $1 million in business a year in the late 60s, early 70s, and they were basically broke cash-wise. And so what I'm telling you is not just to do this with your money, although you should, right? You should never have money laying around without a purpose. Anytime you have money, it's got to be doing something. And money in your bank account is doing something if it's your emergency savings. Because what your emergency savings is doing is it's sitting in reserve waiting to pay for daily expenses. And so it's just like how, if you're a basketball team, you have more than 5 players, and those players on the bench, right, as long as they have a role, as long as, if somebody gets hurt, they come in, that's what your emergency savings money is. But everything else, money-wise, you could go ahead and be reinvesting in an index fund, or better yet, in your own personal growth or personal business, because in a personal business, you can grow, instead of 7% a year, you can grow, 10% a month or more, depending on how well you implement it, right? And to finish off the money part of this, which is not really what I'm about, it's just that money operates under the same laws of physics as personal development, so it's the same thing. Jeff Bezos, guys, Amazon is huge now, but for a decade or more, he took every single thing that Amazon earned and just reinvested it in getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Just reinvested it in more distribution. Do you know why Amazon can ship anything in a day or 2 days now? It's because for decades, 2 decades, Jeff Bezos sat there and said, every cent we make is going back into building more distribution facilities and more warehouses so that we can be closer to everywhere. So just so you know. But the coolest thing about this is doing it with personal development. It's so fun to do it with personal development, right? Doing it with money, it's like money is money, right? You need it to live, but I'm just, my brand is called Liberated Millionaire because I think just money follows the same laws as physics, and so you can have tons of money. Why not, right? That's the human potential. But as far as the personal liberation part, for the past 4 years, I've been working and working and working on my personal growth. And what's really fascinating is there's never a point where I've eased off the gas. For example, today, now I sit in my house and I'm happy. I'm happy with my wife and my relationship. I have enough money to live on, although I still, of course, want to grow more. And everything's great. And yet I'm still sitting here, and I'm not kidding. 30 minutes before filming this episode, I was thinking, I don't know if I can film this episode. I'm so tired. I can barely move. And the reason is I'm taking every ounce of energy I have and reinvesting it. And so the real trick, the way this kind of math works out with your energy, is first of all, it's just like money. The more you invest, the more you create. So I have more energy now, right? But second of all, emotional and inner energy, you can keep raising higher and higher and higher, more than you thought you had, right? With physical money, once you spend that money, you have to wait for it to come back. But with mental and emotional energy, 30 minutes ago, I was having a meltdown. Now, I talk to myself and hype myself up, and I'm actually really energetic, and even though my body is freaking out tired, I'm still energetic, enthusiastic, pumped, engaged, all those things. And so, not only do you get that regular compounding, say on my workouts where I work out over and over again, and even though I'm super tired today, I feel great and my body keeps getting stronger. But I also get the compounding of emotional energy, of getting emotionally stronger. I need a drink of water. And so anyway, to kind of hammer it home, here is how personal growth is meant to be done. This is what I've learned in 4 years, is you take your energy and you're always maxing it out. But you are already doing that anyway. So physically, you should be about equally as tired if you're really focusing on your personal growth as you would be if you weren't. Because instead of stressing out about work and gossiping about friends and getting drama about society and worrying about everything, you're still in a lot of pain. It's just that pain is, oh my God, I did a 75-minute workout yesterday for the 4th day in a row, and my body is like shaking, and I'm like testing my nutrition, I'm trying new foods, which is tiring, and I'm spending all this time on my podcast. Physically, right, I'm using all that energy that I used to use worrying, but now I'm using it and wearing myself out growing. And so what I call the upward spiral is when every day you feel stronger and more powerful than the previous, and you still use all that energy to reinvest it. And then every day you just grow more and more. And this is something that business people who may not always understand it with their personal lives do understand about money and using it with money, right? But there's this extra level. It's not just, oh, I should put a little money in an index fund. Oh, I should, practice being positive or read a little personal development. No. Like that's still not going to get you where you need to go. You got to wake up and think, how can I completely exhaust myself by 10 a.m. so that I've used everything in the tank? And then how can I figure out a way to get more? That's where I am today. My 9 to 10 video session this morning, I exhausted myself. I'm exhausted and tired, but I'm just going and going again. And so I don't know exactly how to wrap this up, but the point is, this energy is here for you. It's open to you. But what you got to do is reinvest in yourself. People, like we in society, I was talking about this on my live this morning, but we pivot on a dime where somehow in modern American society, at least, for our first 21 years of life, we're allowed to have our parents invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in raising us to age 18, and then another $100,000 or more in college, and then maybe even more in grad school. But suddenly, once you have a job and you're on your own, it's like, oh my gosh, like spending money on a book or on personal development, that's too expensive. I can't afford a pull-up bar. I can't afford, grass-fed meat. I can't afford, a health supplement. Like, get real. Are you serious? That's going to be 100 times as valuable as your college education as if you invest in your personal development. And do it with the attitude of the best business person. So, I try to take the attitude of Phil Knight, right, with his Nike, where he's literally, doing amazing, but he's a growth company, and so he breaks the bank, investing it all again. That's what I do with myself, not just with my money, but especially with my personal energy, And so some days like today, my energy bank account is pretty much zero, even as hard as I work on myself, but it's only because I'm ordering a double-sized shipment of personal energy for the future. Does that make sense? And then I can just keep doing that until eventually there'll just be so much that it's like this cornucopia and you really hit the exponential growth. And that's why I've started live streaming my life to you guys, so you can watch that happen in real time, because I've done the background 3 or 4 years to get myself in place, and now you're going to get to watch it happen in real time. Okay? Same thing with Jeff Bezos, right? Just investing in the warehouses over and over and over again, right? Like what I'm doing with not just my mind, when I'm doing therapy on myself every day, or my emotions, right? When I'm doing emotional conditioning every day, but even with my body, when I'm working out 75 minutes a day, even though today's my day off, what that's doing is it's just like Jeff Bezos building the warehouses over and over again to get closer. It's like, yes, I'm back to zero cash balance, because every time I work out, guess what? I'm stronger, which means I can work out harder, which means I'm equally as tired or more so at the end of the day, And that's the way life is meant to be, is you do that until it's just rolling with itself with momentum, and then everything's just gravy. But the point is, you can't think of it as some negative thing where you have to put in a bunch of work and be in a bunch of pain and be in a bunch of debt in order to get the results. That's not how it works. How it works is every day you work smarter and more intuitively by leaving behind addictive behaviors, gossip, drama, criticism, the news. Like, this is what you do. You first stop watching the news, you stop gossiping or criticizing, and you only have positive things to say. You stop focusing on the negative, and then you suddenly have this surplus of time and energy. You use that to condition yourself. And so every day you wake up, you're not just getting more energy, but you're also naturally happier. So guys, business people do this in business. You can do it to be more personally happy and reduce your anxiety. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. I hope that's good and fun for you because it's just life-changing, all right? And if you hear this on the replay or you come by this on Facebook or wherever you're looking at my stuff, YouTube, feel free to leave a question. Ask me a question and I'll address it on a future episode of the podcast. But that's it, guys. Have a great day. I've had so much fun streaming you today, and I'll actually be back at 4 p.m. every day with Lifestyle and Leisure Time. Today, my Lifestyle and Leisure video is going to be on the books I'm reading, and I'm going to pull up a screen of my Kindle Cloud Reader and show it to you guys so that you can see what I'm up to. I'll talk to you later.